So a little bit of a backstory for it. I was running SAG for Lori and Teresa while they were doing the Crusher 100. And I had a fair bit of time sitting in the car because it was kind of a rainy day, so I didn't want to get out and do anything. But had a fair bit of time to sit in the car thinking about a lot of things and decided that I wanted to do some sort of bad idea that would be a tribute. And just sitting there thinking, like, we always wanted to ride junker bikes somewhere, just for fun. We'd send each other videos of people trying to ride junker bikes on real courses, and we're like, we could do better than that. I'm sure we could make these things last. And it just sort of struck me while I was sitting up in the UP, because Brett and I had ridden a number of times together up there. So, I don't want to say I was having a hard day, but definitely hard times while sitting up there. And it was one of those things that just sort of hits you and like, yes, this is the right idea, the right thing to do. I'm going to do it.
From KOM Cycling and Michigan Midpack Media, welcome to the Dirty Chain Podcast, the podcast that covers the cycling scene from the viewpoint of the Michigan Midpack. I am your host, Trevor, and on this episode, joining me is our resident bad decision ambassador and frequenter of the podcast, Mr. Mitch DeYoung. Hello, Mitch.
Hey, Trevor.
How are we doing today?
We are doing well. Excited to be on again.
Well, thank you for helping me out and joining. You had quite the adventure not too long ago, which I want to get into and talk about. Quite the adventure, aptly named LumberJunk. I think we will talk about that name and the adventure itself in a little bit. But it's been a while since you've been on the podcast, Mitch, and so I thought maybe we could kind of see what you've been up to lately. I know that, don't mean to interrupt, but I know that you had a successful Margie Gessick run recently.
Yeah, definitely did. Had a great time. Went up, came in at 12 hours and 48 minutes, Oof. I think, which not the day I was hoping for, but I rode well. I was on. My nutrition plan was good. Stayed with my hydration. I was happy with my performance. So I can't complain by any means. I had a fun day. My summer training just wasn't what I was hoping it would be.
Sure.
But a lot of people's summer wasn't what they were hoping it was going to be. But all in all, I'm happy with it. And I know I can go faster. So I'll be back.
Is it safe to say that Margie Gessick is usually probably one of the A races of your season?
Yeah, I'm trying to plan out next year's already, and it's one of 2 A races.
Yeah.
And it's hard to put any more than that in there, but it's really what my training focuses towards, and it's what I really want to peak for.
Yeah, and how many Margies have you done now? How many have you started? I guess I'll ask that.
I did 2016, and I buckled. 2017, I took a rock to my back wheel and had to drop out when I hit Jackson Mine Park. 2018, I didn't go back because I said I wasn't going to go until I had a full suspension bike, and I didn't have one. Didn't have one then yet. I went back and
buckled with a hardtail.
I buckled with a hardtail.
Oh God!
Went back in 19 and did a horrible job of hydration. I finished, but I was in a bad state when I finished. I don't remember what my time is, but it was not good.
Oh,
and then
man.
Back this year, so
4 times. Well, very cool. I mean, we've talked a lot about Margie Gessick previous years and this year too on the podcast. So it's very cool to hear about. Well, congratulations on your successful finish.
Thank you.
Of this year, and then good luck to next year. But you had mentioned that your summer wasn't quite what you had planned. I know that you were expecting to be at Barry-Roubaix, but I didn't see you there. You said that Margie kind of took a little bit out of you.
Yeah, so July and August, I didn't really get to train like I was hoping to. Just life gets in the way sometimes. And really went really hard on my training for Margie the 4 weeks leading up to it. And then just dug a really deep hole between that training and race day. So when I got done, I was worn out, burnt out, just needed a break. I went and did TNR a week and a half after Margie, made it about 10 miles in. And it was just like, oh my goodness, I have no legs at all. I can't put out any power, and I feel miserable. So, I'll wait and see how I am at the end of the week. But 2 days before Barry was set to go, I went out and did an easy ride, and I couldn't put out any sustained efforts. And I figured, you know what? I'm not going to enjoy myself if I go. And I've never raced Barry before. I'm one of the few people in Michigan who's never raced it. And I decided I didn't want my first experience actually racing it to be one where I just didn't enjoy the day.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's going to hurt no matter what you do, but there's a difference between hurting and liking it and just being in a bad mental state for it.
And knowing you, I feel like this is by no means a put down or anything, but you are strong and you're competitive, and like me, I would probably go too deep and do some deeper damage than was necessary.
Yeah, that's a definite possibility.
Yeah.
Or I would go too deep too early and blow up, and then just race is
And
done
be 50
40
miles
miles
away.
in. Yeah, like now what do I do? Because I wouldn't have a way to get back.
Yeah, definitely. Just wait for the wagon to come pick you up or something.
And that just didn't sound like fun.
Yeah. So, I've been kind of on like a end of season lag or whatever after Barry. Barry was great, but I haven't really done too much since then. A couple rides here and there. But one thing I did do that I wanted to talk about is a couple weeks ago, I went to the Miska State Championships, and I did not race. I tried; they wouldn't let me.
Apparently, you have to be in high school
Yeah.
or something. I don't know.
Miska, the Michigan Scholastic Cycling Association, it's not just high school; it's like elementary school all the way up, and they had their state championship end of the year race in Cannonsburg. Have you raced? Or have you ridden Cannonsburg before?
Yep, I've ridden there a few times and raced there once a number of years
And I've never
ago.
been there. I've never been there skiing. I've never been there riding. I'm a terrible Michigan rider, I guess. But I loved it. First of all, what an event! It felt because it was like a legit race. They had cool like finish shoots and start shoots, and Miska's got their stuff going on, man.
Yeah,
It was really cool, and all these team tents were up, and to see all the kids riding around with bikes that were way more expensive than I could afford, but they were pumped. All of these young people were so pumped about riding and racing, and it was kind of inspiring to see all of them be so excited about racing and all different levels. I mean, you had these, I was joking about expensive bikes. Yeah, you had your kids on really expensive bikes, but then you also had a lot of beginner riders, even in the high school group, and then a lot of beginner riders in the younger kids. So it was fun. I watched a couple of the races go off. I got there a little late. I didn't see the varsity groups start and finish, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, they do a great job putting on the series for anyone who really wants to get in, and they make it very accessible, which is great. And it's a great way to get kids into the sport, even if it's just to get them out there and ride on the trail and see that they can go out and have fun.
I know that your sons are involved in the CYC.
Yes.
And that's not really a racing thing necessarily, but it is kind of our local capital city, Lansing area youth cycling club, I guess. Yeah. So how old are your sons?
They are 10 and 7.
Okay.
I believe CYC, you can be 5 or 6. It might even be younger. And it kind of goes up through the middle school age group. I know they have plans to expand it a little bit and make more room. They are looking for volunteer coaches, so if anybody wants to coach next year, I'm sure you would be much appreciated.
I feel like CYC is another podcast episode theme down the line, but I feel like a lot of these clubs that were there that day at the Miska State Championships kind of started like CYC, just youth cycling club, and then developed into, well, now that they're in high school, what are we going to do? Let's start a race team. Anyways, cool event. I think though, the week before that, you had put together quite the bad decision ride. And I think we've talked about your bad decision rides in the past a little bit, but I want to get into the origin of the bad decision ride, this one specifically, in a bit. But let's first just say, will you explain to us what this ride was? LumberJunk. You heard us right. LumberJunk 2021. Just the nuts and bolts, literally losing nuts and bolts.
Yeah, definitely. So the idea was pretty simple. We could somehow come up or purchase or find, it was all up to the individual, what we considered a junker bike. So a bike that was not of like bike shop quality. We put a price limit out there that was kind of a rough, try to keep it 150, 175 bucks or less. So make sure you're not spending a whole bunch of money. I mean, I realize that's not no money, but these are bikes that we were hoping were still going to be usable when we were done. So get these bikes, and we went up to Big M, which is where they host the LumberJack 100. And what we wanted to do was see how far we could make these bikes actually last. The goal was not to set out to destroy them by any means. We just want to see how far we could go with them. And then got a little ways into planning, and I decided that maybe there should be a reason for this too, not just for us to be goofy out in the woods, but came up with the idea of making this a fundraiser for the Brett Miller Memorial Fund. Just reached out to some people and said, hey, is anyone willing to make a donation, and we'll send you some pictures when we're done, or you can pledge per mile how far per mile we ride, just to kind of get it out there that we're doing this, and we're doing this for a cause, but we're going to have fun while we're doing it, because it's going back a few years, it's something that Brett and I had joked about doing numerous times. Like, we should just get some cheap bikes and go out and do something goofy with them. But unfortunately, we never had the chance. So I thought it would be a fitting way to have a fundraiser for his memorial.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll get to the fundraiser in a second. But you jumped past a lot of things, and so I want to make sure that it wasn't lost on anyone. It took place Big M, where LumberJack takes place, and so you kind of stole the probably there might be a legal battle still happening, but no, you borrowed.
We're losing badly. No,
you borrowed the LumberJack name and changed it up for LumberJunk, which I just thought was brilliant.
We checked in first and made sure it was okay before we did anything with it.
And so the idea, and I think because I was on a text thread that you all were on, and the idea wasn't it to say, like, I feel like you wanted to ride 100 miles.
That was my original goal. I really did want to make these things go 100 miles. Originally we wanted to do the actual LumberJack 100 course. And then I started looking into the course and realized that you have to spend so much time going backwards on the trails, and it's really not easy to follow unless it's marked.
Okay.
And we didn't want to go out there and mark a 30-mile course. And then the bad thought hit, what happens if we're as far away from the trailhead as we could be and a bike breaks? So you're going to walk your bike back 15-ish miles, which is going to take all day. And I realize there are some shortcuts out there, but most of us don't know them. Yeah. So we're just like, that sounds like that's beyond bad idea. That's just... Yeah.
Were there some people that were riding up there for the first time and just in the area?
Tristan was riding with us, and I believe it's the first time he's been mountain biking. So not a great
Tristan
first experience. He had Joe Cantwell rode with us, and I know he's not ridden there before.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, if Joe had ridden over there. So you created a fresh route. Like LumberJack is like a 30-some...
Yeah.
33.33 or whatever.
There's also a cross-country race there every year, and that's an 8.5-mile loop. And we basically used that loop but added on another little section to get another climb into it, because we should have to climb more than what's really necessary.
Wait,
those bikes didn't climb, by the way.
Speaking of climbing, were they like what kind of gearing? And now I'm kind of getting into the weeds here, but
it was a triple front.
I was wondering if it was a triple. Yeah, that's what I was hoping it was.
22, 34, 44 maybe, something like that. And in the back, it was 11, maybe like 36. It was not enough gear.
I feel like I hope I'm remembering this correctly, but were there grip shifts?
Yes.
Yes.
There were grip shifts, and they worked okay. Kind of, not really.
That's amazing. So you did was it about a 10-mile?
It was 9.5 miles.
Okay.
When we actually did the actual course, we all kind of made a couple wrong turns on the first lap. A few people went up the fire tower climb. If you've not done it, you should. It's basically just a big sand
that you climb up, right?
Yeah, but you have to push your bike. Even on race day, you have to push your bike up.
Was it just go up fire tower and then back down it? So
I thought we were going to go up it and then take a fire road down, but I messed up when I did my route planning and it actually didn't go up it. So we went up it, and half the guys went the gravel road down and around.
That's a good. That's a great.
It is a
gravel
great descent.
to just rip down.
It's fast, yeah. And then they ended up back on the trail. I went up it, realized it wasn't on course, went back down it, which was sketchy because the head angle on that thing is so steep that it wants to throw you over the bars when you're going on a flat trail, and then trying to go downhill was even worse. I know Chad and Nicole ended up kind of going out and around somehow. They went up it, back down it, and then I think they went up the gravel road and back down fire tower climb again. To be back. So they made like a loop on the loop.
Okay.
And then got back on course.
Let's talk about bikes again, or I guess, or for the first time. What was your steed of choice?
My steed, I wouldn't call it of choice, but the steed that I had was a Hyper Havoc, which is a Walmart special. It is a full suspension. It has roughly 20 millimeters of movement in the rear. That's a guess. I don't know what it really is. And it has a front fork that moves whenever it wants to. 24-speed drivetrain, Shimano.
Okay.
I don't know what model of Shimano, but it wasn't a named one. 26-inch tires. And every time you pedaled, it would bounce and then bounce 3 more times. You hit a bump and it would bounce 3 more times. You just kind of like bounce on it.
Brand new, though.
Brand new
out of the box.
Yep. Yeah.
And that was kind of being a part of some of the pre-conversation to this, I had seen that you guys were kind of talking back and forth and saying, hey, this Walmart has 3 of them, or this one has one available. So a few of you were riding the same bike, right?
Yeah, Chad, Dustin, and I were all on the same bike. And then Joe ended up with a bike that was almost identical. We looked at him when we got him there, and his had a 21-speed drivetrain instead of 24.
Okay.
And there were some minor differences in the frame, but for all intents and purposes, they were the same bike.
And then you said Tristan kind of had
He had an old bike that was a little better quality than ours, but it was running like a...
but it was like a Schwinn, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't great. It was old. It was not in great shape. But it still was... But it had...
But the quality was probably way better than your Havoc, whatever.
Yeah, the quality was definitely better. His tires were not better, though, because he had like a cruiser tire.
Oh.
So there were no traction. We actually had tires that looked like mountain bike tires.
That's amazing. So, okay, let's talk about then the...
And another guy showed up on a beach cruiser.
I thought I saw that.
Yes.
Oh, wait. I think Chad told me it was he had a coaster brake.
Yes, he did. It just the back, and it was, I watched him, he came down Fire Tower climb behind me with that. Absolutely hilarious, because he has it locked up, and he slides a few feet and lets off a little bit and rolls a foot or two and locks it back up.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah, sketchy, for sure.
So you guys get there, you kind of made a cool event of it. Some of you went up the night before, camped out.
Yep.
And there were 8 of you that participated. 6 of you.
Me, Dustin, Chad, Joe, Tristan, Mike. He was the guy on the beach cruiser. And then other people that were there, I know Nicole, Matt, Jameson, Sebastian, and Mackenzie, but they were riding regular bikes when they were riding.
Sure. Yeah. Which, I mean, you kind of opened that up when you made it into like a,
Yep. We just wanted people to come up and have fun.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So whether you had a junker or not, but in terms of junkers, it sounded like the handful of you. And then, did you start like online and say like 3, 2, 1, go, or did you just kind of let your?
We went up under the pavilion and got a picture, and then we're like, all right, everybody ready? And then just rolled out. Kind of easy. No, I did a write up and joke that we rolled out and we're flying around the trail as fast as we could go, but it turns out as fast as we could go was like 8 miles an hour, where you should be doing 16 or 18.
So, how was your first lap?
Well, my first lap was an adventure, for sure. We started off just having a great time, laughing and joking and cruising along. We get to the first climb at 1.67 miles.
Okay.
At 1.68 miles, my chain explodes. And no, I wasn't trying to shift while climbing. No, I wasn't trying to put out a whole bunch of power or anything. It just, all of a sudden, I heard it made a weird sound, and then my pedals were spinning easy. I'm like, oh man, I dropped my chain. How did I drop my chain? And I looked down and it's broken in half.
There is no chain.
No chain. No, it was still there. It was just not on half of it, and it was broken in half. So I stopped, and Chad came back and helped me. We put it back together because it's one of the old ones where you have to press the pins in, and it's such a pain to get them to work again.
Yeah, there's no quick link or anything.
So we got to put back together. And I took off. I'm like, all right, I have to be even more careful of this thing because
is it just like, do they just put like really cheap chains on these bikes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to find a brand name on it and I couldn't. It's definitely not anything, if I were to, well, my plan is to make the bike usable again for next year. And I'll put on like just a cheap Shimano or KMC chain that I know will last.
Does that make you, not in the running for the junker? Because if you start, it's like the old thing, like there's an old ship, and if you keep taking parts off the ship and put new parts on it, and then at the end when it's a brand new ship, like, is it still the old ship? That proverb or whatever?
We have to be within reason.
Okay.
I think.
You can't like change the frame out.
No, I'm not going to put an XT chain or something on there, but it's still an 8-speed, and you can only find so much out there for that. But just something so the chain isn't going to break every time I do anything.
Mm-hmm. What were some of the other contenders mechanicals? Because I heard there were a few.
Well, Dustin had his chain explode twice, so he
I like how it's
not
they don't break.
They're not breaking, they explode. We have to make it a little fantastic because it makes it more fun. He broke his chain again, not doing anything crazy, not doing weird shifts or anything. It just broke, and he stopped, fixed it, rode another 1/10 of a mile, and it didn't break in one place. It broke in multiple and sent chunks flying into the woods.
Oh my gosh.
So he couldn't fix it, and he was done. I made it another 6 miles, and then I don't even know how it happened. I was coasting downhill, and all of a sudden I just hear this loud bang. What in the world? And then as the derailleur, which is now flopping around, hit and gets stuck in the spokes.
Oh no!
It's no longer attached to the bike, so my derailleur broke off. That was basically the end of my day. And then Mike, his pedal fell apart, so he had no more like platform. He just had a small metal spindle sticking out, and he tried to ride it for a while, but it was just digging into his foot, and he just said, this is a bad idea, so I'm just gonna call it a day on this. Those are really the only three.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Chad, Joe, and Tristan all made it the entire time with no issues. No. I mean, they had to adjust their brakes a few times.
Yeah.
But no chains, no. I'm trying to. No flat tires. Nothing. Their bikes made it the whole time.
Yeah, I bet those weren't those tires like really hard rubber?
Yes.
Like, I don't think you could have flatted.
I kind of expected them to flat constantly because they have no protection in them. But the trail there is just in such good shape. There's not really anything to pierce them. There's no thorns. There's no rocks to speak of. There are some roots, but roots don't usually cause an issue. We did put a lot of pressure in them, so we didn't pinch flat on the roots.
Yeah.
But that was about it.
I couldn't imagine a more like a better. It's the beginning sounded like exactly what I would have hoped would have happened. Is just like bikes falling apart immediately. I'm glad to hear that there weren't any like injuries because of the. I know Tristan did fall and kind of hurt himself a little bit, but
He bruised himself up a little bit. Nothing serious.
Yeah, but I'm glad to hear that there wasn't anything, because when you have a bad idea, I mean, sometimes that can turn into a really bad idea. But I'm glad it wasn't a that bad of an idea. Now, I was talking to Chad, even though he didn't mechanical. He said that he got a few laps in and just couldn't imagine riding that bike any further.
Oh, they were nothing like efficient. So after my bike broke, I had brought my regular bike up, and I did a lap with Chad. I rode behind him. And anytime we got to anything even close to a hill, he probably had to put out twice as much power as I did to climb up. So I was sitting behind him, just pedaling along, cruising, and he's there trying to be careful with the chain and trying to be careful with the shifting, but putting out as much power as he can to keep the bike moving and not break it, but just working so much harder than I was working. Even on the flats, they didn't roll well. The bearings are just, they're not good quality bearings.
Yeah.
The 26-inch tires just don't roll as easily as 29ers over stuff. I'm sure there are people who will say I'm wrong, but in this situation, that was not the case. I rode both.
I think that's proven correct.
It is. There's still some diehard 26er people out there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, they weren't efficient, and anytime you tried to pedal, the bike would bob, something horrible.
Yeah.
The front fork basically was a spring in there, and the spring just bounced all over the place.
It reminds me of Jeff Kabush did this thing not too long ago where he went down Repack Hill in Marin County, where Gary Fisher and all those dudes kind of invented mountain biking. And so there was this descent that they would time themselves going down on these clunker bikes. There's a pretty cool documentary on Amazon you can watch. It's like from 1991 or something, or 1989. But yeah, so like recently Kabush went down with a modern bike and had a hard time to match the same times as these guys on these clunker bikes, which, just like listening to this story that you guys are telling, like, I can't believe that some of these guys rode these, in the early days of mountain biking, some of the junk that people rode.
Although if you look at the frames they had, they were so overbuilt on those clunker bikes.
Oh yeah. They would like weld a bunch of stuff on it. And, this is definitely a different ball game. But I like this idea, and some people might scoff at, like, why would you buy $150 bike, $175 bike, if it's just going to be for a one-time thing, or what, a piece of junk or whatever. But we spend $150, $175 on race registrations all day long, mm-hmm. And maybe that's on a little higher end, but isn't it just the same thing? Like, your race registration bought you a crappy bike and then you rode it.
Yeah, basically it is. And we were hoping that, and for the most part, these bikes will still be usable. And I know Joe had been talking about fixing his up and donating it to a charity in town by him.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So it's not like we're just going to get these bikes and throw them away when we're done. But it is basically, your race entry fee. And again, you didn't have to have a junker to come and join us for the day. It was just something that we thought sounded like a good idea, a good bad idea. And so we wanted to try it.
So, real quick. So Joe Cantwell, he had the furthest.
Yes.
The miles, I guess.
So we did 3 laps, and Tristan and Chad both decided that they were done riding their bikes because it was too much work. And Joe said he had one more in him, so they went out and did one more lap. I know he rode with Dustin was riding his regular bike. Matt and a few other people on regular bikes went out and they did one more lap. And so he finished up with one more lap, just under 40 miles. Everyone else ended up with just under 30 miles, or not everybody else. Chad and Tristan ended up with just under 30 miles. So Joe won. I made a plaque the day before with, it's just a scrap piece of wood, an old used chain ring. And I bought a sticker that had a number 1 and then wrote LumberJunk on it. Pretty nice. And we've decided we're going to have to continue to use it every year. We'll just write the winner's name on the back and their distance and see if we can make it further next year.
Yeah.
I do have one great story we have to tell.
No, we better.
So Dustin was riding along and he had broken his chain and he had to get back. He was 5.5 miles out and he had to get back to the trailhead, and there's not a great way to go. So he was kind of using his bike like a strider bike. He'd sit on it and scoot with one leg and coast for a bit and scoot with one leg. And there were a few spots where we go out by some ORV trails, and he's starting to go down one, and a bunch of ORVers come flying by, and he is riding his junker bike that has pink tassels that blink with little LED lights, in his full spin race kit, scooting this bike along, just smiling, having a great goofy time, because what else? You can't take yourself seriously at this point, especially scooting your bike. And they go by and just kind of give him a strange look, and he's like, okay, that's not too bad. And he said maybe like 10 minutes later, they come by the other way, and he's still scooting along. And he's like, ah. It's the weirdest look from these people. And I can only imagine what people are thinking is, here's this grown man scooting a bike with pink tassels. What in the world is going on out here?
I mean, cyclists already don't have the best reputation, or, That's
great
hilarious.
Entertainment for them for the day. I'm
Whose
sure
idea was the pink tassels? Did you just want to add some flair, or what?
He just wanted to add some flair, and we all gave him a hard time because he didn't get any for us.
That's amazing. You guys had like a cool, a couple days before, didn't you have like a bike build party?
We did. Yeah, Dustin, Chad, and I got together, and we spent probably 2.5 hours. I would say putting them together, but we spent 2.5 hours hanging out, and we put bikes together while we were doing that. And it was absolutely hilarious. We probably had just about as much fun building them as we did riding them. Just goofy jokes and being the 14-year-olds we are inside.
Hey, tell me, did any of those bikes have skewers?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
No skewers. The quick, or the multi-tool for the day was a 15 millimeter wrench. No Allen wrenches needed. I believe the brakes did require a 10 millimeter, but the 15 millimeter would have been the great tool, except we had to do it right, and we just took an adjustable wrench with us. So any trailside maintenance was an adjustable wrench.
Amazing. I love it. I mean, it's one of those things that, just like we were talking about Margie Gessick, like, we kind of get stuck into this like competitive, your season has to be like, we start here, we have an A race here, we do this, we do that. And sometimes it's nice to grab a bunch of friends, and you don't need to have the best bike, you don't need to have the best equipment, you just need to make a great experience. And it sounds like you guys had an incredible experience. I'm bummed I wasn't there. I was kind of busy for the weekend, but I will have to be sure to be there again if it happens. Yeah, the story, it just cracks me up. I think I would have made it like half a lap probably.
It was hilarious, and the difference between riding these bikes and when I got on my regular bike is just amazing. And I mean, it goes to show that you can get out there and you can ride anything. You don't have to have, multiple thousands of dollars worth of bike. You just need a bike to go out and ride. And if you kind of treat it nice, you can get it to go somewhere. And Big M may not be the best place to take a bike like this, but if we were to take them and, try to do 100 miles on a bike path, even like a crushed limestone bike path, it would still be hard, but the bikes would make it just fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Should make it just fine.
So yeah, you had mentioned that this was ultimately a bad decision ride, that you wanted it to be a fundraising ride for the Brett Miller Foundation. Brett was kind of like your right-hand man when it came to bad decision rides. Even earlier this year, a ride you two and a few others of you have attempted several times. The two of you managed to finish it, border to bridge.
Yes.
I know like Sheldon had attempted it with the two of you a couple times, and Sebastian and Jameson, and
you came for 100 miles.
I came for 100, but then I had a heart out. but yeah, that's. I was just thinking about that today when I knew that we were going to talk about this bad decision ride, that the two of you, Brett and yourself, had finished the border of Michigan all the way up to. Did you just to the bridge, or did you go to Sault Ste. Marie? Or
we went into Sault Ste. Marie and rode all the way to basically it was a park at the Sioux Locks. So
okay.
We went from one end of Michigan all the way to the other end of Michigan.
So it wasn't just border to bridge; it was beyond.
It was border to border.
Border to border. Okay.
Yes, border to bridge we've done twice.
Okay.
It was one. So the first year we did it, it was me, Brett, and Sheldon, or Brett, Sheldon, and I. You should say it properly. And we were going just for border to bridge, and that started off as, who wants to do a double century? Well, if we're going to do a double century, we could ride to the bridge. It's only 30 more miles. Well, if we're going to ride to the bridge, we should start at the border.
Yeah.
And it just sort of snowballed and happened. And we finished it. And then the next year we decided we should get some more people and go even further. And we got, unfortunately, rained out. And then we went back again the next year with a smaller group and got rained out again. And then we'd been doing them in October, which was a horrible idea. It's cold.
Yeah. What? Why? I know it's like it's a season thing too. Like
we didn't want to miss any races.
Yeah.
And this year, I actually had Mohican scheduled for that weekend. I was signed up for it, ready to go, and just had this. We should go for it. It's going to be one of the longest days of the year. The weather is looking great. We both have a weekend. Let's just go. So we did, and managed to make it all the way from, I don't even know, there's a little town in Ohio. It's a village or something that we start kind of at. Ride there, ride into Indiana, and then ride all the way up to the bridge, get a ride across the bridge, and then ride through the Upper Peninsula from St. Ignace up into Sault Ste. Marie.
Yeah.
Yeah, 402 miles.
Insane.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
And this year you had great weather, correct? Or
we got rained on for an hour, but it was 70 degrees.
Oh, well,
so it didn't really.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice.
So kind of long way around this, but so this bad decision ride, this most recent one, the LumberJunk, was not only a way to raise money for Brett and his family and his kids, but also to kind of a tribute to the style of riding that Brett was known to do, and especially with you. Yeah.
Yeah, because we did a lot of 100-mile races or 200-mile events that were all just out in nowhere, having a great time, or taking a super long weekend to drive down to Tennessee and do a race down in that area. And this was definitely something that would have been right up the alley for our bad decision rides.
Sure.
So yeah.
And so it had to have been a little bittersweet for you, I'm guessing. I don't want to say just for you, because
for everyone
there, it was kind of leading up to it and during it. It's everyone knew it was for Brett, and he was on everyone's hearts, like through the whole every terrible pedal stroke that you guys were making. I'm sure that it had to be bittersweet.
Yeah.
Right?
So a little bit of a backstory for it. I was running SAG for Lori and Teresa while they were doing the Crusher 100. And I had a fair bit of time sitting in the car because it was kind of a rainy day, so I didn't want to get out and do anything, but had a fair bit of time to sit in the car thinking about a lot of things, and decided that I wanted to do some sort of bad idea that would be a tribute. And it was definitely a bittersweet time, that it was hard thinking about some of the things that I wanted to do that I didn't know if I could get other people to fit it into their schedules, because some of these bad idea rides take, they're an entire weekend plus a ton of planning. So I was like, what can I do that would be that the kind of meaningful tribute thing, that something that other people will be able to join and have fun, but at the same time use it as a way to remember some of the great times that all of us had together. Because it wasn't, I didn't want it to be just about me by any means, and I wanted it to be a way that we could all celebrate all the goofy times we had playing out in the dirt. And just sitting there thinking, like, we always wanted to ride junker bikes somewhere, just for fun. We'd send each other videos of people trying to ride junker bikes on real courses, and we're like, we could do better than that. I'm sure we could make these things last. And it just sort of struck me while I was sitting up in the UP, because Brett and I had ridden a number of times together up there. So, I don't want to say I was having a hard day, but definitely hard times while sitting up there. And it was one of those things that just sort of hits you, and like, yes, this is the right idea, the right thing to do. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah. Well, it sounded like a success and a fun time, but also very meaningful, and supported a good cause. And I can't think of a better, dumber tribute for our friend Brett. And I didn't participate in it, but I feel a part of it from kind of the outside. And I just want to say, thank you for the work that you put into it. And, even how dumb and bad decision-ish it was, you put some real work and thought into it. So and thank you for sharing that story with us, the story of the ride itself, and then just the whole backstory too. I mean,
you're welcome. Thank you.
And I hope to join you this next year.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Thanks, Mitch.
Welcome.
The Dirty Chain Podcast is a Michigan Midpack Media production in partnership with KOM Cycling, the source for your bike accessories and necessities. Connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Dirty Chain Podcast. Email dirtychainpodcast@gmail.com. If you are enjoying the podcast, leave us a rating or review on whatever platform you use to listen. Audio editing and original music by myself, Trevor Gibney. A huge thank you to Mitch DeYoung for sharing his incredible story, a hilarious story about LumberJunk. And hey, if you're listening to this when it comes out and you're heading up to Traverse City for Iceman, come see myself and the KOM booth at the expo. Stop by, say hi. Can't wait to see you all up there. And as always, keep your chain clean, but get your chain dirty. We will see you in the Midpack.